She gave her jacket to a shivering stranger, unaware he was a millionaire who would change her life forever. The wind howled through Boston's streets, a relentless beast driving sheets of snow against the windows of Brewhaven, a small coffee shop tucked into a quiet corner of the city. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered faintly, casting a dim glow over the empty tables as the clock ticked past midnight. Anna Lay, 24, stood behind the counter, her apron stained with espresso and her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She wiped down the espresso machine, her hands moving mechanically despite the exhaustion tugging at her bones. The storm outside raged, rattling the glass, but it was the shadow beyond the door that stopped her cold. A man stood there, hunched against the wind, his thin frame trembling violently under a threadbare coat. Snow clung to his matted hair, and his lips were tinged blue. Anna's breath caught, her cloth slipping from her fingers. She squinted through the frosted glass. He wasn't moving, just shaking, a ghost in the blizzard. "Jesus," she muttered, stepping toward the door. Behind her, Jake, her co-worker, looked up from sweeping the floor, his broom pausing mid-stroke. "Anna, what you doing?" he called, his voice sharp over the storm's roar. She didn't turn, her hand already on the lock. "There's someone out there. He's freezing." Jake dropped the broom and crossed the room, peering over her shoulder. "Anna, don't go out there. He's not your problem. Let him figure it out." Her jaw tightened, her fingers twisting the deadbolt. "Not my problem? He's half dead, Jake. I can't just ignore him. He could be drunk or crazy or, look, just call 911 if you're so worried." Jake grabbed her arm, but she yanked it free, spinning to face him. "And what, let him freeze while we wait? No chance." Her voice rose, fierce and unyielding. "He needs help now." Jake threw up his hands, exasperated. "Fine, play hero, but don't expect me to back you up when he turns out to be trouble." Anna ignored him, shoving the door open. The wind hit her like a slap, slicing through her thin sweater as she stepped into the storm. Snow stung her face, but she pushed forward, reaching the man in 3 quick strides. Up close, he looked worse. His eyes sunken, his skin pale as death, his body racked with shivers. He was older than her, maybe 33, but the lines on his face spoke of more than age. She didn't hesitate, unzipping her only jacket, a worn puffy coat she'd saved months for, and shrugging it off. "Here," she said, thrusting it at him. "Put this on." He stared at her, dazed, his hands trembling too hard to grab it. Anna stepped closer, draping the coat over his shoulders herself, the cold biting into her own skin instantly. "Come on," she urged, her teeth chattering. "Inside, now." He stumbled forward, leaning on her as she guided him through the door. Jake scowled from the counter, but didn't move, muttering something under his breath. Anna ignored him, easing the stranger into a chair near the heater. His coat swallowed him, too big for his gaunt frame, but color crept back into his cheeks as warmth seeped in. She grabbed a towel from behind the counter and handed it to him, watching as he wiped snow from his face. Anna was a soft touch. Everyone knew it. She worked double shifts to send money home to her parents, scraping by on tips and stubborn hope. This guy, though, he was a wreck. Dirty jeans, scuffed boots, a beard that hadn't seen a razor in weeks. No one would guess he was Leon Brooks, a millionaire who'd vanished from the world. To her, he was just a stranger who needed help. She crouched beside him, her arms wrapped around herself against the chill. "You okay?" she asked, her voice gentler now. He lifted his head, his gray eyes meeting hers, cloudy, unreadable, like he was seeing her through a fog. His lips parted, cracked and dry, and a faint word slipped out. "Thanks." Anna nodded, holding his gaze, the storm's howl fading to a distant hum. Something flickered in his look. Gratitude, maybe? Or something deeper she couldn't place. She stood, brushing snow from her sleeves, already wondering who he was and why he'd ended up here. The storm battered the windows of Brewhaven, a relentless howl that drowned out the hum of the coffee shop's heater. Anna stood behind the counter, her sweater damp from the snow, watching the stranger she'd dragged in from the cold. He sat slumped in a chair near the radiator, her oversized jacket still draped over his shoulders, his hands wrapped around his knees as if clinging to warmth. The clock ticked past 1 a.m., and Jake had already stormed out, muttering about her bleeding heart. She was alone now, just her and this shivering enigma. She grabbed a mug from the shelf, the ceramic warm from the dishwasher, and filled it with black coffee from the pot she'd brewed earlier. Steam curled up as she crossed the room, her sneakers squeaking on the wet floor. "Here," she said, holding it out. "It's hot. Drink." He lifted his head, his gray eyes catching hers for a moment before dropping to the mug. His hands shook as he took it, fingers bony and raw from the cold. "Leon," he rasped, his voice rough like gravel. "Name's Leon." Anna nodded, pulling up a chair across from him. "I'm Anna. You got a last name, Leon?" He stared into the coffee, silent, then took a slow sip, wincing as the heat hit his cracked lips. "Just Leon," he muttered, barely audible over the wind. She waited, expecting more. Where he'd come from, why he was out there. But he clammed up, his gaze fixed on the mug like it held answers she couldn't see. "You can't stay out in that," she said, jerking her chin toward the storm. "Crash here tonight. Couch in the back's not much, but it's dry." He didn't argue, just nodded faintly, and she figured that was as good as she'd get. She stood, brushing her hands on her jeans, and grabbed a spare blanket from the storage closet, tossing it over him. "Get some rest." Leon sank deeper into the chair, the blanket pooling around him, but his eyes followed her as she dimmed the lights and locked the front door. She settled at the counter with her phone, the storm's roar a constant companion. He was asleep within minutes, his breathing uneven but steady, a faint snore cutting through the quiet. Anna glanced at him, her curiosity itching. Who was he really? A drifter? A runaway? Something about him didn't fit. She reached for her jacket, still slung over his chair, to grab her keys from the pocket. As she tugged it free, something clinked to the floor, a ring, heavy and silver, glinting under the faint light. She crouched, picking it up, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. It wasn't cheap. The weight alone screamed money. She turned it over, squinting at the inside band. A single word was engraved in elegant script. Brooks. Her breath hitched. Brooks? That wasn't a drifter's trinket. Anna sat back, the ring cold in her palm, her mind racing. She'd seen enough pawn shop windows to know this was real, expensive, maybe even custom. Why would a guy like him, half frozen and ragged, carry something like this? She glanced at Leon, his face slack in sleep, and suspicion crept in. He wasn't just some homeless guy. There was more to him. Something big. She pulled out her phone, the screen casting a blue glow over her face, and typed Leon Brooks into the search bar. The results loaded slow, the Wi-Fi spotty from the storm, but then they hit T-Head. Headlines from months back. Tech millionaire Leon Brooks vanishes after financial scandal. Brooks Enterprises in chaos as CEO disappears. A grainy photo popped up. A clean-shaven man in a suit, sharp jaw, gray eyes. She squinted at the sleeping figure across the room. Same eyes, same bone structure, buried under dirt and despair. Her pulse quickened. Could it be him? She scrolled further. Articles about fraud allegations, a collapsed deal, a man who'd walked away from millions. No mention of where he'd gone, just rumors and dead ends. Anna lowered her phone, the ring still clutched in her hand. If this was Leon Brooks, what the hell was he doing freezing outside her shop? And why hide it? She slipped the ring back into the jacket pocket, her fingers trembling slightly. Leon stirred, mumbling something incoherent, but didn't wake. Anna leaned against the counter, the storm's howl filling the silence. "Who are you, really?" she whispered to herself, her voice lost in the wind. She wouldn't push him, not yet, but she'd damn well find out. The snow had settled into a thin, crunchy layer outside Brewhaven by the time Wednesday rolled around, the storm a fading memory under a gray Boston sky. Anna stood behind the counter, steaming milk for a latte, her sweater sleeves rolled up to her elbows. The lunch rush had died down, leaving the shop quiet save for the hiss of the espresso machine and the low hum of a radio playing old jazz. She'd barely thought about Leon since that night. Work and bills had a way of burying stray mysteries. But the ring still sat heavy in her mind, tucked back into her jacket pocket. The bell above the door jingled, and she glanced up, expecting another regular. Instead, a man in a tailored navy vest stepped inside, his polished shoes clicking on the tile. He was tall, clean-shaven, his dark hair swept back, and his gray eyes locked onto her with a quiet intensity. Anna froze, the pitcher nearly slipping from her hands. It was him, Leon. But not the shivering wreck she'd pulled from the snow. This Leon looked like he'd walked out of a boardroom, not a blizzard. He approached the counter, hands in his pockets, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Anna, right?" His voice was smoother now, no longer rough with cold. "I owe you a thank you." She set the pitcher down, wiping her hands on her apron, her brow furrowing. "Leon, you. Clean up nice." She couldn't hide the surprise in her tone, her eyes flicking over his suit, expensive, perfectly fitted. "What's this about?" He pulled out a slim leather wallet, sliding a stack of bills across the counter, hundreds, crisp and green. "For the other night," he said. "The jacket, the coffee, letting me crash." "I don't forget kindness." Anna stared at the money, then pushed it back, her jaw tightening. "I didn't do it for cash," she said, her voice firm. "Keep it." Leon's smile faltered, but he didn't argue, tucking the bills away. He leaned against the counter, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You're stubborn," he said, almost amused. "Most people would have taken it. Most people don't drag strangers in from the cold," she shot back, crossing her arms. "Why you here, really? You don't look like you need handouts anymore." He straightened, his expression shifting, something raw flickering behind his polished facade. "I wanted to explain," he said, lowering his voice. "That night, I wasn't myself. I'm Leon Brooks, used to run Brooks Enterprises, tech, millions, the whole deal. Lost it all a year ago, scandal, bad deals. I walked away, hit the streets to forget. Then you showed up." Anna's breath caught, her mind flashing to the ring, the headlines. She'd half guessed it, but hearing it from him hit different. "A millionaire?" she said, skepticism edging her words. "You expect me to believe you were just wandering around Boston, freezing?" "Believe what you want," he said, unflinching. "I was done, until you gave me that jacket, made me remember there's still good out there." His eyes softened, holding hers. "You woke something up in me, Anna." She blinked, caught off guard, her arms dropping to her sides, her heart thudded, part disbelief, part something she couldn't name. "That's a lot," she managed, her voice quieter now. "I don't even know what to say." "Then don't," he said, stepping back. "Let me buy you dinner instead, tomorrow night. I'll tell you the rest, how it all fell apart, why I ended up here, no strings, just a thank you." Anna hesitated, her fingers tapping the counter. She didn't trust easy, life had taught her that, but his story rang with a strange honesty. She'd seen those eyes before, hollow and lost, and now they were different, alive. "Why me?" she asked, almost to herself. "Because you didn't have to help," he said simply, "but you did." The shop was silent, the radio's jazz filling the gap. Anna chewed her lip, weighing it, curiosity pulling her one way, caution the other. Finally she nodded. "Okay, dinner, but I'm not promising anything." Leon's smile returned, small but real. "Fair enough. 7 o'clock, I'll pick you up here." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Thanks again, Anna, for more than you know." She watched him go, the bell jingling as the door swung shut. Her hand brushed her jacket, hanging on the rack, and she felt the faint weight of the ring inside. A millionaire, a drifter, a man who'd lost everything. Leon Brooks was a riddle, and she couldn't shake the mix of doubt and warmth tugging at her. Tomorrow, she'd hear him out. The air in Brewhaven smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon as Anna wiped down the counter, the afternoon sun slanting through the windows. It had been 2 days since Leon's dinner offer, and her mind still churned with his story. Millionaire turned drifter, sparked back to life by her jacket. She hadn't said yes yet, but she hadn't said no either. The bell jingled and a delivery guy stepped in, holding a sleek envelope with her name scrawled on it in sharp ink. "Anale?" he asked. She nodded, puzzled, and signed for it. Inside was a check, 5 figures, enough to wipe out her parents' mortgage and then some. But a note slipped out, typed and simple. "For your family. You deserve it. Leon." Anna's stomach flipped, her fingers trembling as she clutched the paper. It was real money, life-changing money, but it felt heavy, like a chain disguised as a gift. She stuffed it back into the envelope, her heart racing with a mix of gratitude and dread. What did he want for this? That night she tracked him down. He'd left a card with his number after their last talk, and she called, her voice tight. "Meet me at the shop now." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in that navy vest, his expression calm but curious as he stepped inside. The place was empty, closed for the night, the hum of the fridge the only sound. Anna slapped the envelope onto the counter, the check peeking out. "What's this?" she demanded, her eyes locked on his. Leon glanced at it, then back at her, unfazed. "A thank you. You said your folks were struggling. Thought this could help." She crossed her arms, her voice rising. "Help? This is thousands, Leon. You don't just drop that on someone. What do you want from me?" He frowned, stepping closer, his hands raised like a truce. "Nothing, I swear. You gave me something that night. No strings, no questions. I'm just paying it back." "Paying it back?" She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "I gave you a jacket, not a loan. This feels like you're buying me or something." Her chest tightened, fear creeping in. She'd met guys who flashed cash to get their way. Leon didn't seem like that, but this was too much. He shook his head, his voice steady. "Anna, I don't want anything. I've got money again. Sold some old assets. I heard you on the phone last week, worrying about your dad's bills. Thought I could fix that." She stared at him, searching his face, those gray eyes, earnest but guarded. It made sense, but it didn't. She turned away, pacing, her sneakers scuffing the floor. "You don't know me," she said. "Why care?" "Because you cared first," he replied, soft but firm. Later, alone, she dug deeper. Her phone glowed as she scrolled through old articles. Leon Brooks, betrayed by a business partner who tanked Brooks Enterprises, then dumped by a fiancé who'd run off with the profits. Scandal after scandal, trust shredded. No wonder he'd walked away. But that didn't mean he wasn't playing her now. The next day he showed up again, hands empty this time. She met him at the door, the envelope in her grip. "I can't take it," she said, holding it out. "It's too much. I don't trust it." Leon's shoulders sagged, but he nodded, taking it back. "Okay, I get it." He paused, his voice quieter. "I've been used before, Anna. I'd never do that to you." He scribbled something on a napkin and slid it over. His number again. "I don't expect you to pay me back. Ever. Call if you change your mind." He walked out, the bell chiming behind him. Anna stood there, the napkin crumpled in her hand, torn between his words and the shadows of doubt still clinging to her thoughts. The weeks slipped by, winter tightening its grip on Boston with icy winds and gray skies. Brewhaven became a rhythm of clinking mugs and murmured orders, but lately it had a new constant. Leon Brooks. He started showing up every few days, always in that navy vest or a crisp sweater, slipping into a booth with a black coffee and a quiet nod. Anna didn't push him away. After the check incident, she'd kept her distance, but his persistence wore her down. He didn't flash cash or force favors. He just sat, watched her work, and talked when she let him. At first it was small stuff. Weather, the shop's leaky roof, her knack for remembering orders. She'd lean on the counter during slow hours, wiping it down while he sipped his drink, his gray eyes softer now, less haunted. "You're good at this," he said once, gesturing to the bustle around her, "keeping it all together." She shrugged, a half smile tugging her lips. "Have to be. Life doesn't wait." He'd nod, like he got it, and she started to see past the suit, the way his shoulders slumped when he thought no one noticed, the faint scars on his knuckles from a life he wouldn't name. He wasn't the polished millionaire from the headlines anymore. He was just Leon, and she liked that version better. One Friday, the shop emptied early, snow flurries dusting the windows. Leon lingered, his coffee cold, as Anna locked the register. "Rough day?" he asked, watching her fumble with the keys. "Rough week," she admitted, slumping into the booth across from him. "Boss cut my hours, rent's due. Same old grind." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You ever think about more? Something bigger?" She raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Like what?" "I'm not exactly swimming in options." "Dreams," he said simply. "What's yours?" She hesitated, her fingers tracing the table's edge. No one asked her that, not really. "Baking," she said finally, her voice low. "Real stuff. Cakes, bread, a little shop someday. Stupid, maybe." "Not stupid," he said, his tone firm. "Sounds right." She met his gaze, surprised by the steadiness in it, and something shifted. They talked longer that night, about her mom's old recipes, his late-night drives to clear his head. He didn't push, didn't pry, just listened. And she found herself laughing, the sound rare and unguarded. A few nights later, the snow fell thicker, blanketing the city in silence. Leon showed up after closing, his coat dusted white. "Walk with me?" he asked, his breath fogging in the air. She grabbed her jacket, the one he'd worn that first night, and followed him out, the cold biting her cheeks. They wandered down empty streets, snow crunching underfoot, the world muffled and still. He told her about his childhood, boarding schools, absent parents, a life of wealth that left him hollow. "I built everything," he said, kicking adrift, "and lost it all. Didn't care. Until you." Anna stopped, her boots sinking into the snow, her heart thudding. "Me?" He turned, his face half lit by a street lamp, raw and open. "You're the first person who made me want to live again, Anna. Not just exist, live." His voice cracked, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "I was gone that night. You pulled me back." Her breath caught, the words sinking in, warm and heavy. She stepped closer, snowflakes clinging to her lashes, and saw the truth in his eyes. Vulnerable, real. "Leon," she started, then faltered, her own walls crumbling. "You make me feel that, too, like there's more." He exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping, and reached for her hand. She let him, her fingers curling into his, cold but steady. They walked on, sharing dreams under the falling snow. Her bakery, his chance to rebuild, not an empire but a life. The city faded, leaving just them, their steps synced, their voices soft against the storm. By the time they looped back to Brewhaven, the snow had piled high, the shop a dark silhouette. They stopped under the awning, breath fogging between them. Leon squeezed her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "I mean it," he said quietly. "You're different." "So are you," she whispered, her heart racing. They stood there, hands clasped, the cold wrapping around them like a cocoon, and she knew it. Friendship had slipped into something deeper, a love blooming fragile and fierce in the winter night. The snow had melted into slush by mid-February, leaving Boston's streets slick and gray. Anna locked up Brewhaven late, the neon sign buzzing as she pulled her jacket tight against the damp chill. Leon had been there earlier, his usual booth empty now, his coffee cup still warm when he'd left to take a call. Their nights together, walks, talks, hands brushing, had woven a quiet rhythm, but tonight felt off, the air heavy with something she couldn't name. She turned down the alley toward her bus stop when a shadow stepped out, broad shoulders, slicked back hair, a smirk that curdled her stomach. "Anna, right?" the man said, his voice smooth and cold. "Leon's little savior." She froze, her keys digging into her palm. "Who are you?" "Mark," he said, stepping closer, his expensive coat brushing the wet pavement. "Old friend of his. He's been dodging me, but you're the leverage I need." His eyes glinted, predatory. "Tell him to back off, or I spill every dirty secret from Brooks Enterprises. Tax evasion, shady deals. He'll be ruined." Her pulse spiked, anger flaring over fear. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped, stepping back. "Leave me alone." Mark laughed, low and sharp. "Cute, but he's not worth it, sweetheart. Walk away, or I'll make you." Before she could react, he lunged, grabbing her arm and twisting hard. Pain shot through her wrist as she stumbled, her keys clattering to the ground. She swung her free fist, catching his jaw, but he shoved her against the brick wall, his breath hot on her face. "Last warning," he hissed, his grip tightening. "Tell him?" A shout cut through the dark. "Get off her!" Leon barreled into the alley, his coat flapping as he tackled Mark, slamming him into the opposite wall. Anna gasped, scrambling to her feet as the two men grappled, fists flying. Mark landed a punch to Leon's ribs, but Leon roared back, driving his elbow into Mark's nose. Blood sprayed, staining the slush red. Mark staggered, cursing, and pulled a switchblade from his pocket, the blade glinting under a streetlight. Anna shouted, "Leon, watch out!" He dodged as Mark slashed, the knife nicking his arm, tearing through his sleeve. Leon grabbed Mark's wrist, twisting until the blade dropped, then kneed him hard in the gut. Mark crumpled, wheezing, and Leon pinned him down, his chest heaving. "Stay away from her," Leon growled, his voice raw. "You come near us again, I'll bury you, legally or otherwise." He shoved Mark into the pavement and stood, blood dripping from his arm, his eyes wild as they found Anna. She rushed to him, her hands shaking as she touched his face. "You're hurt," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm fine," he panted, pulling her close. Mark groaned, dragging himself up and limping away, his threats swallowed by the night. Leon's jaw clenched. "He's my old partner, screwed me over, took everything. I've got dirt on him too. He's done." Anna nodded, adrenaline still surging. "He said he'd ruin you." "Let him try," Leon said, fierce. "I've got lawyers, evidence." "He's got nothing." He winced, clutching his arm, and she tugged him toward the shop's back door, unlocking it with fumbling hands. Inside, she grabbed the first aid kit, her fingers steadying as she cleaned the shallow cut, blood staining the gauze. Leon watched her, his breathing slowing, his hand resting on her knee. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "Didn't think he'd come after you." She wrapped the bandage tight, her eyes meeting his. "He didn't win," she said, firm. "We're stronger than they think." He smiled, faint but real, pulling her into a hug. She pressed against him, the warmth of his chest grounding her, their scars, his arm, her wrist. A testament to what they'd faced. The past had struck, but they'd struck back, together. Spring crept into Boston, melting the last of the snow into puddles that reflected the city's restless pulse. Anna wiped down Brewhaven's counter, her movements sharp, her jaw tight. The past week had turned her quiet life into a circus. Tabloids splashed her face across their pages, headlines screaming, "Barista bags Millionaire," or "Gold Digger" or "Good Samaritan." Customers whispered behind their cups, their stares prickling her skin. Leon Brooks, once a ghost, was back in the spotlight, and she was the punchline tethered to his name. It started after Mark's attack. Someone had snapped a blurry photo of them outside the shop. Leon's arm bandaged, her hand on his, the story spiraled. Disgraced tycoon finds love in the gutter. Online it was worse. Trolls called her a leech, a climber latching onto his rebuilt fortune. Leon faced his own heat, blogs questioning if he'd lost it, dating a nobody waitress. Anna's phone buzzed with notifications she couldn't mute, each one a jab at her pride. She'd avoided Leon since, dodging his calls, working late to skip their usual talks. Tonight, though, he showed up, slipping through the door as the last customer left. His sweater was casual, but his eyes were stormy, fixed on her. "You're shutting me out," he said, leaning on the counter. "Why?" Anna tossed her rag down, her voice low. "You see the papers? They think I'm some parasite, Leon. Your friends probably do too. I can't do this." He stepped closer, his brow furrowing. "I don't care what they think. I care about you." She laughed, bitter, turning away. "Easy for you to say. You're used to this. I'm not. I'm a joke now, and it's humiliating." Her hands shook, shame burning her throat. "Maybe we should stop. I don't belong in your world." "No," he said, sharp, grabbing her wrist gently to stop her pacing. "You don't get to quit us because of them. I'm not letting you go, Anna. Not over garbage headlines." She pulled free, her eyes glistening. "It's not just headlines. It's me, my life, my dignity. I gave you a jacket, not a ticket to drag me through this." He softened, his voice dropping. "You gave me more than that. You gave me a reason to fight back. I'm not losing you to this." She wavered, torn, but the weight of it pressed too hard. Before she could argue, he straightened, resolute. "I'll fix it," he said, and left, the bell chiming behind him. 2 days later, the TV in Brewhaven blared, "Leon at a press conference," cameras flashing as he stood at a podium downtown. Anna paused mid-pour, coffee dripping onto the counter, as his voice cut through the static. "I've been quiet too long," he said, his tone steady, commanding. "The stories about Anna Lee, they're lies. She's not a gold digger. She saved me with her kindness, no agenda, no greed. I was a wreck when she found me, and she gave me hope when I had none. I love her for it. Plain and simple." The room hushed, reporters scribbling, then erupted with questions. Leon raised a hand. "Judge me if you want, but leave her out of it. She's the best thing that's happened to me." He walked off, leaving the crowd buzzing. Anna stared at the screen, her chest tight, warmth flooding her. By evening, the tide turned. Social media flipped, fans praising her realness, papers backtracking with "Hero Barista Wins Heart Takes." Leon showed up at closing, his expression hopeful but cautious. "Did you see?" he asked. She nodded, stepping around the counter. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did," he said, taking her hand. "We're in this together, Anna. Screw the noise." She squeezed his fingers, her shame fading into resolve. "Okay," she said, voice firm. "Together." They stood there, united, ready to face whatever came next. A year slipped by, and Boston hummed with the crisp edge of a new winter, the air sharp with the promise of snow. Anna Brooks stood in the doorway of Lay's Sweet Haven, her bakery, a cozy brick storefront tucked into a bustling street. The sign above glowed softly, her name in curling script, a dream baked into reality. Inside, the scent of cinnamon rolls and fresh bread wafted out, mingling with the chill as customers trickled in, their chatter a warm buzz. She wore a flour-dusted apron over a sweater, her dark hair tied back, a faint smile on her lips. Leon stepped up beside her, his arm slipping around her waist, his navy coat brushing her side. They'd married 6 months ago in a quiet ceremony at City Hall. Just them, a handful of friends, and Jake from Brewhaven, who'd grumbled but showed up anyway. No fancy gowns or tuxes, just vows whispered over a shared coffee cup. Their rings simple bands that caught the light as they stood together now. He'd shed the last of his old life, sold off Brooks Enterprises' remnants, and poured his know-how into her vision instead. "Busy day," he said, his breath fogging in the cold. He nodded at the line forming inside, where a teenage barista, hired from a local shelter, rang up orders with a shy grin. "You're killing it." Anna leaned into him, her hand resting on his. "We're killing it," she corrected, her voice soft but firm. The bakery wasn't just hers, it was theirs. Built from late-night planning sessions and his knack for numbers, he'd handled permits, suppliers, marketing, while she perfected recipes. Her mom's pound cake, a lemon tart that sold out daily. They'd turned her old dream into something tangible, a place where flour and sugar spun a new story. Beyond the counter, their life had grown roots. They'd moved into a modest row house nearby, trading his penthouse past for a kitchen where she tested dough and he brewed coffee too strong for her taste. But it wasn't just about them. Every week they loaded a van with unsold pastries and blankets, driving to shelters and street corners, handing out warmth to those shivering in the shadows. It started with Anna, her insistence after a night delivering leftovers. But Leon jumped in, his old wealth now a tool for her kindness. They called it Haven Outreach, a quiet mission born from that snowy night she'd saved him. Inside, a volunteer stacked boxes of rolls for the evening run, her laughter cutting through the clatter. Anna watched, her chest swelling. Pride, yes, but something deeper, a peace she hadn't known before. Leon caught her look, his gray eyes crinkling. "What's that smile for?" "You," she said, turning to face him. "This, all of it." She gestured to the shop, the street, the life they'd carved. "I never thought," He cut her off, pulling her close, his lips brushing her forehead. "Me neither. You changed everything, Anna." The sky darkened, and the first flakes of snow drifted down, light and fleeting, dusting their shoulders. They stepped outside, the bakery's warmth at their backs, and stood on the sidewalk, watching the city blur into white. Leon's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together, steady and sure. A kid darted past, chasing a snowball, his giggle echoing, and Anna laughed, the sound bright against the quiet. She glanced at the shop, her name on the sign, the glow spilling onto the snow, and then at Leon, his face softened by the cold light. They'd faced storms, literal and not, his past, her doubts, the world's noise, and come out stronger. The jacket she'd given him that night hung in their closet now, a worn relic of where it started, but this moment, this life, was the real gift. Snowflakes caught in her lashes as she squeezed his hand, her voice a whisper in the falling hush. "We made it." "Yeah," he said, his arm tightening around her. "We did." They stood there side by side, the bakery a beacon behind them, snow swirling soft and slow. It was more than a happy ending. It was a beginning, a love forged in kindness, tough as steel, bright as the winter night stretching out ahead. Snow fell gently over Boston, blanketing the sidewalk where Anna and Leon stood, their hands clasped as Lee's Sweet Haven glowed behind them. What began with a simple act, a jacket given in a storm, had blossomed into a life of love, purpose, and resilience. From a shivering stranger to a partner in every sense, Leon found redemption in Anna's kindness, while she discovered strength in their shared journey. Together, they turned hardship into hope, proving that even the coldest nights can lead to the warmest days. As the snow settled, their story whispered a truth. Sometimes, the smallest gesture can rewrite a lifetime. If Anna and Leon's tale warmed your heart, how a barista's compassion thawed a millionaire's despair, how love triumphed over doubt and danger, then don't miss more stories like this. Subscribe to the Soul Stirring Stories channel, where every tale stirs your soul and celebrates the power of human connection. Click that subscribe button now and step into the next heart-stirring adventure with us.